I'm going to switch to the slides real quick, but just so you can see. Now you got video. I just want to make sure everything's working, right? Yeah, cool. All right. Well, you know what? I'm out at I've got an interesting project. I've got a great little project going here in West Seattle. Seattle it used to be a separate city years and years ago, but it is, it's part of Seattle. It's been that way for quite a while. But it has the main connection to Seattle is a big bridge going across the Duwamish Waterway, which is where all the ships come in. They've got a flat river that runs down in from the south side of Seattle, and there's all kinds of shipping that goes on in the mouth of that river. Big docks and all that kind of stuff. And I managed to find this lot that was a very difficult one. It was in receivership. I'm just telling you real quick, it's kind of human interest, but I like doing challenging things. Several times in my life, I have found lots or projects that nobody wanted to touch because they were too difficult. They didn't know what to do. And I could see something, and it's just fun to go in there. And when you're done, everybody go, oh my gosh, I never thought that could happen. And that's kind of what I do. Well, I found this one over here. The Seattle Bridge has been down for almost 2 years under reconstruction. This market is hot, but it's been really difficult to get to West Seattle. Big, long detour, everybody hates it. But it's going to be finished this year, and we're going to be coming online with this house. So we think our timing's really good. But I just wanted to show you, if you look out, oh goodness, not very good. But if you look out my back window, you can't really see. Anyway, there's a view of Elliott Bay and the shipyards, and Mount Rainier is in the background when the clouds are. It's an incredible view. And the house next to me is this 4-story monster here. And we're going to be building something similar to that. In fact, if I hold this up, there we go. Maybe you can see this. This is what we are putting there. So there's the house next to it, and that's the one that we're going to be putting up. It's a 4-story, big, beautiful, about 3,300 square feet. Elevator in it, and the views will be just stunning. But it tucks back into a very, very steep hillside, and that's the challenge. And I'm out here just because they had some difficulty and they need some consultation. But if you look out the window here, you can see that it is a hole that's dug back into a hill. The walls in the back will be 25 feet tall, the concrete walls, and then the house will go up another 20 feet on top of that, 25 feet on top of it. So it'll be 50 feet tall probably. And when it's done, it'll be a marvel. But in the meantime, it was one that it ran into some difficulties and sat for about 2.5, almost 3 years. And we were able to scoop it up, and now we're going to make a fun project out of it. So there you go. That's why I'm on the road, just so you know. And so let's jump over here and we'll get started with the slides. So I'm going to do a screen share, and here we go. Right now, tell me if you see the coaches, the trading playbook page pop up here, please. Excellent. 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 All right. Good. Well, I can see your text chat, and let's get going. I'm going to preface this today, guys, by telling you I struggled with this. I really struggled with this. And part of this I'm going to be doing just by hand, by drawing out some things for you. Is Trip in the room, or anybody that's been with me in the past? There's a few here with Rob's group that have been around a long time, and they remember me from past, a past life, if you will, a number of years ago. Trip's here. Yep. Okay. There's a few of you. Good. Trip, you'll remember, and not that I need this to verify that I'm telling the truth, but you'll remember that there were several times when I would talk about trading psychology that I would say, these are some things that I can teach you, but there may be some things inside your head that will keep you from succeeding no matter what anybody does, no matter what information is put in front of you. And it can be really frustrating. If that's the case, you're going to have to get some help, because I'm not going to go there. I know about it. I'm not going to go there. I can't teach this on stage. And I would just say, if that's the case, then you're going to have to just figure it out and get some help. Who remembers hearing me say that? Trip says, I do. Okay. Leslie probably does too. Larry says, yep. So guys, I'm going to go there today. At least I'm going to try to go there. And the reason is because I'm really passionate about this. My son is turning out to be a little bit of a YouTube influencer. He's a master practitioner in neurolinguistics, and he's got a few other certifications in training in brain psychology. And he and I have had a fun time over the last year and a half as he's pursued this. He's getting quite good at it. But as we discuss things, it's just made me realize how important this is, and maybe feel like I'm going to try to touch on this in a way that may get you started, because everybody has issues. Everybody. There's nobody that doesn't have issues that hold them back in some capacity. And I've found over the many years in coaching with trading that it manifests itself in a lot of people's trading. I can see it, and I don't say anything because I can't. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not going to be your counselor. But today I'm going to go dangerously close to that edge in trying to open up your eyes or show you a couple things that you might be able to benefit from on yourself. And now Trip and Larry and Leslie, you guys will remember that one of the things I've always said is that you can't tickle yourself and you can't scare yourself. It's real hard to be your own third party. And that's why we talk about the trading triangle, the three people or the three personalities. We're trying to get balance and accountability in our life, because you by yourself, it's really difficult for you to be your own coach, to be your own advisor, and to hold yourself accountable. I'm going to go there today in terms of helping you understand why, but also give you some hope. And I'm not promising any miracles, but I am going to show you, I hope, and demonstrate and prove to you that there are things that you can do. Yes, it works better if you have a third party, but it's really hard to find that perfect coach too, that perfect therapist, that perfect advocate that can help you get through this. But there's a possibility that with a little different perspective, there's some progress you may be able to make on your own. I believe it'll help you in your personal life, but I also believe that it will help you, in some folks anyway, it'll help you in your like I said, no guarantee that I'm going to fix anybody, but I'm darn well going to show you some really important stuff. And so I titled this Stinkin Thinkin, and you'll see why. We'll start out just a little bit light. I mean, let's back up. We all know the disclaimer. I'm not going to be getting anywhere near any of this stuff today anyway. So let's just talk about this thinking. That we can report on these things, and that is, people either feel and then act. Action is any kind of action you take is driven by a feeling, by something that is a chemical response in your brain. It just is. You can't do anything without a chemical response telling you to do it. Okay? It's a proven fact that if you act a certain way, you can change your feelings. But more often than not, it's the feel act happens on a subconscious level. You feel something and you act. Well, where does the feeling come from? Guys, the feeling comes from a stimulus. If there's an outside stimulus, you smell something, you hear something, and as that information is fed through your ears, through your touch, or through your eyes, or through your nose, once that gets into your brain, that information is interpreted then there is a reaction. Now, guys, I've told this to some of you before. That process happens, and then a reaction, and then a physical action. That process happens at approximately 280 miles an hour. I'm going to invite you to take some notes today, because I'm going to hit you with some things that are really going to be important. About 280 miles an hour, that's how long it takes to smell something and then have a reaction of turning up your nose and pushing your head back and going, ew, and making a face. Think about it. It feels instantaneously, but it's about 280 miles an hour. In the process of time, in that fraction of a second, that information goes into your brain through your nose, your touch, your ears, your eyes. It's processed, it's recognized, and a loop, a pre-programmed reaction kicks in. That process is fascinating, because what happens is the brain says, I know what this is. It says here, according to the recipe, we need to, and then it goes ... We need to tighten our nose, squeeze so no more of this smell comes in. We need to squint our eyes. We need to tighten our neck muscles and throw our head back so we're getting away from that source of smell. We need to squint our eyes, and we need to move backwards. If that's the recipe to smelling something that you don't like, you get the stimulus, you run the loop, you process. Now that information is sent to the hypothalamus. And if I take you through just a little bit of a kind of a visual, it's called the hormone system or the endocrine system. And if there's any medical folks in the room, you're welcome to argue with me, but I hope you don't, because I've studied this stuff. I've studied a lot of different people, a lot of the current science. I think I'm right on this, so just go with me. I'm not going to be off very much, even if I'm not a professional, okay? But that information is then sent to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the big dog, okay? It's the big dog. It's the one who gets the signal from your brain once it recognizes what's happening, and it looks up the formula, and it sends the formula to the hypothalamus. Because in order for you to squint your nose, squint your eyes, pull your head back, tighten the muscles, all those things that are all going to happen simultaneously and almost instantly. In order for that to happen, it's a recipe. The recipe is sent to the hypothalamus, and it decides how to execute the recipe. Now, it doesn't have to think very hard, because it's already memorized. If you've already smelled that and you don't like it, it's recipe. The hypothalamus then sends out some signals and or hormones. Hypothalamus can signal and create hormones. It can also send signals to the pituitary gland and to the pineal gland, which will send out little peptides that shoot into your bloodstream immediately, almost instantly, because it knows the recipe. If part of the recipe has to do with something that you're going to feel in your stomach, it may send that signal down to your adrenal gland. It may send a signal to your pancreas or the thyroid or the thymus, or to the ovaries or to the testicles or to the placenta. These are all areas that are subcategories or subfactories. The hypothalamus says, okay, I'm doing these and these. Pituitary gland, you hear these guys on right now. And this all happens almost instantaneously. So it's a recipe. We call it a loop, or it's called a loop in psychology circles. There's a lot more technical terms, but a loop, everybody knows what that means. A loop means once that starts, it cannot stop. Once that process starts and it goes into action, you consciously can't stop it. You can't stop it. If it isn't interrupted at the introductory stage, we see, smell, if there isn't an immediate interruption, you can't stop it. And whatever that recipe is that follows through, and maybe it's a stimulus of somebody cutting you off on the freeway, and it goes through and it fires off, the hypothalamus fires off cortisol, which is a fight or flight. It's a damaging hormone. If you get too much of it too long, I mean, it literally can hurt you bad, but in short doses, it's there to react to fight or flight, and you will attach other behaviors like doing the one finger salute and yelling out certain nasty words and shaking your fist and gripping the steering wheel and wincing about that idiot that just cut me off again. I hate it when people do that. That whole reaction is a loop. It's memorized and it can be triggered and then run at 280 miles an hour, and you can't stop it because you've practiced it. It's easy to follow. The recipe knows exactly, and it's a smooth, it's greased, it just goes because that's what you do. When somebody does that, when you smell that, when you hear that, when somebody looks at you that way, when I touch a hot stove, you know, those things are memorized. And once you start, you can't stop it. The danger is most of us have developed a few of those reactions. We have a few recipes in our stored memory. In our cookbook, there's a few recipes that we're not real proud of. And there's a few recipes that seem to get us in trouble. And sometimes we don't even know why. Why do I keep doing that? I can't believe it. And then we hear somebody confirm that and go, I can't believe you did that again. Or what an idiot. What's wrong with you? And whether it's somebody else or ourselves, it does the same thing. It reinforces to our subconscious that it worked. And you're going, yeah, wait a minute. No, I got a bad feeling. I know that's part of the recipe. We do this, and then we feel bad afterwards. Okay. Your subconscious has no sense of right or wrong. It only has one sense, which is survival, and that is right. Whatever makes you survive is right. Whatever protects you is right. Yeah, but it's a self-destructive behavior. It doesn't know that. The subconscious does not. Your rational mind might know that. Your friends might know that, right? They look at you and they go, dude, I love you, man, but God, I hate it when you do that. I know, I shouldn't do that. But you're going to. Every single time that somebody pushes that button, unless you interrupt it immediately, you will run the loop. Even if your conscious hates it, it can't stop the subconscious, because at 280 miles an hour, that thing is in motion. It's done. Okay. This system is an amazing system. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but it is incredible. And the loop, by the way, the loop is nothing more than a set of instructions that are run off of an electrical impulse. In the nerve cells, this is inside of your brain. This is the hypothalamus right there, the pituitary glands. You've got the adrenal glands. These are down in your stomach. And it communicates with all these guys, says, hey, we need you to send out this hormone. Epinephrine comes from the adrenal glands, and the norepinephrine comes from the adrenal glands. Okay. Every one of these points that I showed you that are little sub factories, each one of them produces different things that all create your emotional response at 280 miles an hour. Now, everybody think for a minute, and I want some feedback. Even if it's a yes, does everybody recognize that there's a certain feeling that happens in your gut when a trade goes against you? Yes or no? Okay, somebody said breaking up. That's me. I'm breaking up. Sound is cutting off. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm watching this. The signal on my phone, which is my hotspot, is still strong. So I hope it's not too bad. Ava says all the time. Guys, when this happens, that is a memorized reaction. At 280 miles an hour, you go through this gut-wrenching experience that reinforces a lot of negative things. It reinforces, if you have a feeling that is deep in your subconscious that says, I'm smart, I know that I'm good in other areas, but I just can't seem to, and you fill in the blank. Or every time you use some stupid definitive like every, which is absolutely not true, but it's an emotional response. Every time this happens, Guys, that is a pre-programmed loop. And if a button is pushed, a trade turns on you, and that button is pushed, everything that follows is a recipe. Now, if you cut off the emotion, a trade turns against you, reaction. It's just fact, it happened. And if there's a robot, it would say, okay, when that happens, I do this. Now it's running a loop too. It's just a different loop, same stimulus. And you go, oh, okay, I get that. Yeah, you're not. And that's a good thing. But sometimes in trading, you wish you were. I wish I could be a robot. Okay. I wish that I could just do this and not have to think about it. Guys, this is the whole idea of the trading pod, that having the three people, the three roles, you break that up so one person doesn't have to take ownership of a whole process and pick off these stupid, and they are stupid, reactions. Now, you're not stupid, but you got stinking thinking. You've got a program that is not serving you well. You've got a program that you allow to be repeated and reinforced. Every time it happens, it reinforced. Yeah, but I hated it. Yes, you did, but your subconscious doesn't know that. Your subconscious thought it was a wonderful thing because it did what it was supposed to do. And whatever it's thinking that serves you, because it does, somehow it thinks that it's serving you, that's counted as a win, and it's reinforced. It'll go easier next time. So how in the world do we make changes? Psychologists, guys, a lot of psychologists, professionals say you can't. These things were developed when you were little. They were reactions to traumatic things, and you cannot change it. Others say, yes, you can. Come and sit on my couch every 2 weeks for the next year and pay me $50,000 a month, and I'll fix you. And what happens? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. A lot of times they don't. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence that this is just an ongoing thing that doesn't ever really get to the heart and change things. But people feel good because they're trying to do something. And I'm sorry if somebody's a psychologist out there, I'm not trying to offend you, but that's the reputation. And that's, in a lot of cases, the reality. Then you've got people that are pushing other envelopes, trying new things. We wind up calling them gurus and sometimes charlatans. You know, Tony Robbins is famous for his motivational things. In reality, he's got a lot of really, really good ideas about how to make changes that are not going to be laying on a couch for months. Okay. And some of these things are very proven, very proven. But it also makes for some confusion because there's a lot of people out there who will, again, they're really good at getting people hyped up and get them pumped up, and they change their emotions for the moment. They can even change their behavior for the moment. But like a bungee cord, they go home and within a week or so, they're right back where they were. Because you can change things, but it's hard to make permanent changes. And it's not impossible, but it's got to be done a certain way or it just doesn't stick. Your subconscious puts up with a lot of crap from you. It sees it that way. It tolerates you. You can say, okay, I'm going to quit smoking, or I'm going to do that. I'm not going to swear anymore, whatever it is. And if you're really, really committed, you can pull that off for a week, a day, an hour, maybe 6 weeks, you know, and then New Year's resolutions. Perfect example. From this year, I'm going to, and gym memberships go up, and then by February, they're back, right back where they were. Why? There's nothing wrong with the people. There's nothing wrong. They were making a commitment, but they were doing something and promising something they couldn't deliver. Your conscious cannot promise that it will change the subconscious. It can't. It's the subconscious doesn't have a connection to the conscious in which it listens or it takes orders. It just doesn't. It tolerates you pushing it off to the side, and it'll go, okay, I'm tired of this. And, you know, it comes back after a while because that's the core belief. And folks, this is what we're talking about, core beliefs. And it is extremely difficult to change core beliefs under most circumstances. Now, it's important that we look at this from the standpoint of, if this is the case, where do they come from? Are they real? And if your conscious says, I don't like this, I want to change this, how in the world do you do it? Because you can't just say, I'm going to change. Because you can do that, and you can bend that subconscious. You can fold it over sideways like a bungee. You know, you can wad it up in a ball. It doesn't care. But after a while, it goes, I'm tired of this, and it comes back up, because in the end, it is going to rule. Because why? You are programmed to survive. Your subconscious, your primitive brain, its primary function is to keep you alive and protect you. Now, if it develops wrong information, then you've got wrong information in there, but that information in your subconscious believes that it's right. It believes that that's correct for you, that it's protecting you somehow. And people will do incredibly stupid, self-destructive, horrible behaviors. And we can judge the behavior, and it's wrong. It's evil. There's no question. I'll call it out. But in that person's subconscious, they're doing the right thing. Okay? It's not so much a conscious decision of, I think I'll just go do something wrong. There is a feeling that is being created. The hypothalamus will send the instructions, or the hormones, either one, because it does a bunch of hormones itself. There's about 50 hormones, right? That's because we're not really sure. We keep finding stuff, but there's about 50 of them. The hypothalamus can shoot some out itself. Otherwise, it just sends instructions down to everybody else, do this and did it, and boom, the recipe comes out. I mean, if we've got curcumin in the recipe, that's not in my shelf. My wife's got some, but I never used it. But if I pull out a recipe, I know flour, all the good stuff, eggs, butter, got to have that, sugar, curcumin. What the gosh? And I'm flipping through there. Yeah, it's there. Okay, well, I don't normally go there. So maybe I have to go down to the adrenal glands or the thymus and go, I don't see you guys very often, but I need a little bit of that curcumin. Can you send some of that up? And that's done at 280 miles an hour. And even if it's destructive, it's serving. So if somebody says, who am I? Or I don't like myself, or I'm a failure, or whatever, even if it's the positive, I'm great, I'm wonderful, I love what I'm doing, okay? Every one of those things has an underlying loop that confirms it or argues with it, okay? One of the two, it confirms it or it's going to argue with it. And so if you want to change, the subconscious is incredibly inefficient, almost incapable of changing the subconscious. And the reason, guys, is simply this. Those loops, good or bad, were laid down with emotions. When you are little, when you're young, your brain, it's not like we only have 50 brain cells and we spend the first 10 years growing 86 million. And by the way, we used to say you've got a billion brain cells. About 4 or 5 years ago, some better testing says, no, it's actually around 86 million. So, or 86 billion. Instead of 100 billion, it's 86. So it's a little bit less. But you've got a ton of brain. And it's not like you're born with 100 and then you grow the other millions. That's not true. When people say, oh, they're growing, their brain is growing. No, it's not really. You're born with the brain cells. What you're doing is making new as you learn, you're making connections. So do the math on this, guys. It's 86 million. Every one of those 86 million neurons has the ability to make up to 15,000 connections. If you multiply 15,000 times 86 million, you're getting a big number that starts with a quintillion first number. The capacity is almost unfathomable. But what it can actually do is fairly limited. It comes pre-programmed to monitor every cell in your body. There's trillions of cells in your body. Okay? It can monitor every single cell, and it does in the subconscious, not in the conscious. But that baby, the whole system, all the systems work in that baby, and it never thinks about it because it's already born with a computer that's capable of monitoring trillions of cells and adjusting and fixing them and keeping you alive. It already has this survival mechanism built in, okay? As it learns, and it learns fast, it makes connections so much faster. A little kid makes connections so much faster than you and I can as adults. They learn languages. They learn patterns, they learn faces, they learn all kinds of things. One of the horrible things that's come out of this pandemic, it makes me so angry, and I'm not going to go there because I'll get in trouble with somebody, but the damage that's been done to our children makes me just want to throw somebody through the window. The things that we put them through in the name of protecting them against something that has almost zero possible chance of killing them, no more than any other disease that we ignore. For them, it's undated to learn, way organically supposed to learn. Okay, but they learn so fast because they need those skills. As we get older, we tend to learn slower. Not because we're not so we used to be when we're little. Every loop that you have when you were little attached a physical and an emotional, which is hormones, reaction to it. You were spanked too often. Or, personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with spanking if it's done right. I honestly don't. And I've read a lot of studies that prove that in my mind. But I believe in the principle that you have to communicate love in such a way that it negates the reaction that you don't want out of that. I had no problem putting a hand on the backside of one of my little kids in a way that would make a little shock and a little bit of pain on their butt, which doesn't do any damage, but it gets their mind focused on me right now. Like, what? And then the reaction needs to be instruction, in my mind, teaching. See, teaching, you're showing, you're saying, okay, that doesn't stop. Listen to me. You can't do that. We're going to do it this way. However, if that spank is attached to a mean face and degrading, you little piece of, you can't do this. How come you do this? Then that is a loop that's built in their head that attaches value to their self-image. That's just one example. Being bullied is going to be similar. It attaches value to their self-image, and it lays a loop down that says, I am less because these people said so. And when you're little, you tend to care about what people say, if they're superiors, if they're adults, if they're friends. And so little by little, touching a hot stove, seeing a dog and having it suddenly bark at you and or lunge at you might make you afraid of dogs your entire life until something is done to relearn. So you also, I'm not telling you things you probably don't already know, but it's important that you think about this, that your reactions to stimulus are learned. So how is this related to trading? So let me show you. Let me give you an example. Okay, I'm afraid of dogs. I don't like conflict, or I just get angry when this happens. How does that happen to trading? Well, here's the deal. When you are trading, guys, when you're trading, you are dealing with something that you have zero control over the outcome. What's happening in the market, what's happening in the trade, once you put your opinion and your money into it, you have no control over it. Okay? And because you have no control over it, it has the ability to trigger you. Okay? And what will it trigger? Well, if you were bullied as a child, if people held you up and took your lunch money, or in a job, if you were in a situation where you were being degraded or berated by a boss who told you that you were not a good person or a good employee, and even though you're a strong, virile individual, to keep your job, you had to keep your mouth shut. Guys, that is a horrible thing emotionally. That cortisol that builds up inside of you that you are not releasing because you can't say anything. You are so triggered and so angry because this person, and maybe they did it in front of your coworkers. You're going to be livid. You're going to be incensed. And you're going to feel like physically you want to just punch him in the nose or scream and yell at him, but you can't. And so you're stifling a reaction, or you're building a reaction. If it's the first time it happens, you're building a loop to when somebody sits me down and says, all right, we need to have a talk. And all of a sudden your physiology changes, your temperature goes up, the hair goes up in the back of the neck, you start you make your fist and the white knuckles, you know what I mean? That is a loop, because you're anticipating what's going to happen. I know I've heard this before, or I know what's going to happen now. Oh my gosh, here it comes again. And you start running this emotional loop that's very damaging. And the person says, "Ah, just kidding. You've been doing fantastic." Boom, it totally pulls out of the water, right? And usually not. Usually it's what you expected, which does what? It runs a loop. Now, when a trade turns on you, you were sure that was going to work. It goes back to, I thought I was doing a good job, but he seems to think I'm doing a job. Now you're getting rolls, and I got to just sit here and take it. A trade turns on you, it triggers that. It's close enough that it remembers. And so the hypothalamus goes, go with this recipe. I think this is it. Yeah, go with this one. Boom. And it runs the loop. And now you sit there as the trade is berating you, as the trade is telling you you made a stupid mistake, as the trade says you did it again, as the trade says you're never going to get this right. You sit there with clenched fists, wanting to punch somebody, feeling bad about yourself, running cortisol and other negative hormones through your body while you just sit there and suffer. And sometimes people will sit there and watch a trade just go right off a cliff. They could have got out. They could have pushed the button, got out with 50%, but they couldn't. And they just held on to it all the way into the ground. They were immobilized. Now, there's a lot of different roads we can examine and give you different examples. Once you recognize everything that happens to you trading that is frustrating is triggered by, and those loops are something that you cannot change. You can't control them once you start it. So now I told you that I was going to give you a little bit of help. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it right now, but I just need the chat's kind of confusing to me because I keep going down and then I'm seeing the same ones. Is it in a loop? Let me move this over so I can see the timestamp a little better. Oh, there we go. Maybe that'll be a little better here. Okay. Let's go down to the most recent ones. I want to catch up. Oh, guys, am I boring the heck out of you? Is anybody ready to leave? I hope this is oh yeah, it does loop. Man, I get to the last one and then it goes to the front again. So I was clicking the button going, I can't keep up with these comments. Daniel, I agree with you. Tom says, no, it's good. Keep going, keep going. All right. We'll keep going. Here we go. So how do we help? Wow, I'm not going to say the name, but someone says, as someone who was bullied, I'm on the edge of my chair. Exactly. And you see, I'll say it. Tom put it out there. So Tom, you see, if I looked at those same exact experiences, but I'm not you, I wouldn't have the same reaction. I would be empathetic. And I would also be saying, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't take that. You should do this and this. I can say that because I'm not running that loop. But if you're running that loop, Tom is feeling it because he's reliving this. Okay? He's reliving this. His hypothalamus, even though he's not being bullied right now, to some degree, Tom, your hypothalamus goes, bullied, run that loop. and now you're feeling this and you're uncomfortable in your chair because it's trying to run the loop and you're holding back. Your conscious is holding back on this because, no, I'm really not being bullied right now. But oh my gosh, man, it comes back. Yes, it does. And the system thinks it's helping you. Okay, so how in the world can we make changes? This is why psychologists say it's not possible, because they work with people and no matter what they do, they make changes, and there are reputable people that say after age 12, you're done. Those loops of basic self, your story is set for life. And the reason that they can do that is because they can point to so many people that have never been able to succeed in changing that story. And they go, you know, once it's said, it doesn't seem to be able to be. You're right, it doesn't seem to be, but it can. And here's the good news, guys. It's called neuroplasticity. Now, I'm telling you, everybody respond to this. Well, you don't have to respond, but everybody think through. When you have been up in an airplane at 40,000 feet, 36,000 feet, looking down on the earth, doesn't it seem different? Doesn't problems seem different? Doesn't conflict seem different? Even storms. I mean, you're looking at a hurricane from space. You can see it. It's massive. It looks, oh my gosh, but it's nothing like being in it. Being outside of it, looking at it, is different than being in it. Yes or no? Right? I'm getting lots of yeses. There is a way for you to try to make some adjustments, but I gotta say something real quick. Every one of those loops in your head, and you've got good ones and you've got bad ones. You have loops that are just as strong, that you cannot change, that are positive. If you are a person that feels compassion whenever you see an animal and you reach out and you do something, or a person that's injured, you know, or someone who seems like they just are having a bad day and you just, it's in you, you just respond. That's a loop. You're not controlling that. Your hypothalamus is running it. It's producing the chemicals, but you're not doing it by choice. You're doing it because that's a loop, and that's a good one. But when you scream and pound the roof and flip on somebody to cut you off, that's a loop too. Now, here is the magic. Listen to this word. Write it down. It's called neuroplasticity. It is your best friend. It can be your worst enemy, but it is your best friend. And it is the argument against those psychologists who say you can't. No, you can. It just has to be done right. Right. Okay? It just has to be done right. Neuroplasticity means every connection in your brain that is the recipe for this negative thing that you do, this negative reaction that you have, every single one of them is a combination of millions of little electrical signals that are jumping across the synapses in the neurons in your brain. All the nerve cells in your brain, all the neurons, the 86 million of them, all of them don't touch each other. Nobody touches each other. They all float in a space and they come very close together and electrical signals jump across. We can actually see them with electron microscopes. You can watch the signals jump across, but they don't touch. And a response, a recipe, is a series of connections between neurons. That's all it is. That series can be changed. And when you change it, you can literally watch it. It's like a light going, like an ember going out. The signal gets weaker, 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 and then the neurons to make 15,000 connections. That is a memorized response or a piece of knowledge or whatever it is. That's a set of, it's an electrical recipe of those neurons. It recognizes what you're seeing, the input coming in. It fires that to the hypothalamus and said, hypothalamus says, no problem, what's the recipe? The brain says, here it is. And it miles an hour produces the recipe. Now, watch. Why, if it's possible, does the military successfully, people, soldiers, men and women, change their behavior in a whole bunch of venues, whole bunch of and effectively they're changed for life. I know people who've been in the military that make their bed a certain way every day of their life since they were in the military. They do not ever vary do that. Okay. There are people, I mean, that's just one example. We don't have time to get into others, but hopefully you get that point. How can the military do that? Well, they've found over thousands of years you can change behavior. They don't do it through any psychological analysis. They don't lay you down on the couch. They simply say, you learned behaviors by doing them over and over again. Stimulus response. Stimulus response lays down a memory. You are here and we're the boss, and you have to do what we say. I'm going to give you a stimulus, and when you react, if it's not the one I'm looking for, I'm going to smack you upside the head. I'm going to yell in your face. I'm going to push you. I'm going to make you do push-ups. I'm going to make you do the response that I want. Now stand up. Here's a stimulus. Nope, that's not it. Give me 20. Stand up. Here's a stimulus. Ah, that was close. Give me 20. It wasn't good enough. And repeatedly, that's it. Now do it again. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. It. And it rewires your brain. You have neuroplasticity. There is no such thing as I'll never change. Bull crap. You'll never change if you believe you'll never change. If you believe that story, you never will change. It's not possible. If you believe will change, is if you believe you can do it yourself, which is very difficult to do. Talking to your subconscious, changing what you believe in your core, almost impossible. But a third party can do it. Military is one example of proof. Self-esteem, you change behavior, you change reaction under pressure and stimulus. You can do all those things. It's neuroplastic. It's very flexible. You change the behavior enough times, it will rewire the new one, and now you hit the stimulus, boom. It's just a thing, but extremely hard to do by yourself. Can't tell yourself, and you really can't be your own third party very well. But we have about 2 minutes. Do you mind if, because we started late, everybody okay with just a few things? A few more things, a couple more minutes. I'm going to put a cap on this. All right. This is what you're looking at. It's simplistic. And maybe if you want, we'll go into more detail on this on another coaching session. If you request it, I will, because a lot more. But this is it, what you're looking at. You're looking down on this globe from space. If you can see objectively, if you can get out of the hurricane and get yourself up high enough in a state where you can look down as an observer in the triad, the tripod, you're the observer, and you're watching and you're looking at this and you say, you know what? The other two aren't playing very well together. Guys, if I'm going to do something, change the brain, and I hope this works. Let's see if this works. Not sure quite how to do this. Let me see if I practice this, but I'm not seeing the screen the way I wanted to see it yet. But oh, okay. I'm going to stop the share. All right, we're going to stop the share, and I'm going to go to a whiteboard and see if I can still share. So we'll go to whiteboard, and then we'll see if we can go back over here and share the whiteboard. All right, are we good? Do you see this? Everybody see the whiteboard? Yes, please. All right. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to make a T, kind of a T chart right here. And I'm going to say, this is the story. This is your story. And guys, the story means this is what you believe in your core level, not your conscious level. This is what your core level. If you want to know what your conscious, what your unconscious, subconscious brain believes what your story is, you objectively look at your life. You look at everything you do, because you is manifested by the things that you do. Why? Because you don't do anything that isn't driven by a stimulus, a recipe, and then a reaction. That's everything you do is a learned response. Everything. Just most people can't be honest enough to take a look at this because it's scary. These are the things that you don't like about yourself. Sometimes you'll see it. These are the things that make you uncomfortable. But these are also the things that can teach you. And it's also the good things. Okay? So I'm going to put a plus on one side and a minus on the other side, because in this story, you're going to have things that you like and things that you don't like. If you can objectively look at this, it's easier to start with the positive. Actually, it's sometimes not, because if I say list all of your strengths, a lot of people will go blank because their doubt comes up and they don't. But once you start, you can probably make quite a list. When I did this exercise, I started out with like 2 things. When I was finished, I had 12 or 13. But after 2, I thought I was done. Okay. Strengths, and you start listing and you think about it and you'll come back. You say, okay, I'm done. You do something else. And then, oh yeah, well, yeah, that's a strength too. I'm really good with people that are sad. I'm good to help counsel. Okay. Or maybe I'm really good under pressure. Okay. When things get tough, I actually do really, that's where I'm really comfortable. Over here, then you'll think of the other side, say, or you might go, no, I hate conflict. I'm not good under pressure. Okay. Pressure. Nope. I suck. I don't sing very good. I'm not a very good singer. And you start thinking, you start listing these things. Okay. You list the strengths. You list what you think you're weak on. You also, on this positive side, you look at positive experiences. Who are some of the influences? Who are the positive influences in your life? And you list them. My dad. Okay. Or maybe your dad was a negative influence. So you put that over here. Dad was a negative, that's a frowny face. Okay. My first grade teacher, who are the people that positively influenced you? And as you do this, you'll come back and you go, oh yeah, I can add this strength in here too. And these are the things that make you feel halfway decent about yourself. Okay. I'm good at math. I never thought about that, but I am. I'm good at math. I'm good at my job. I like managing. And you might go, oh gosh. Okay, well, this is a surprise, but I got to move this because I'm running out of space. So now I'm back to, I'll move this down here. Hang on. And I'll put down my influencers down here. And you start listing all the positive sides that you like about your story. These things you like. And at the same time, you got to be honest, totally honest. And that's why I would do this in a locked room where nobody's there. Nobody's going to be looking at this. Write it in disappearing ink after an hour, whatever it takes. But guys, this is not happy. This is not comfortable when you are honest. And I would do, let's see, can I move this on another program? I can move it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pretend that everything over here was left of that line. And over here, I'm deliberately leaving some space because, and this is very simplistic. If you want, I'll develop this out. And I've had several say, yes, please do another session. Okay, I'll develop this out and we'll go into more detail, but I just want to show you this technique. It's powerful because right now what you're doing is you are up at 50,000 or 2 miles or 6 miles in the sky looking down from a satellite, and you're being honest. And this is going to help your trading and your whole life potentially. But you miss all these things. You don't mince words. You don't hold anything back. You write down things. In fact, when I did it, guys, I used codes because I couldn't actually write down the thing that it was too painful to actually admit it by writing it down. Part of my subconscious was, don't write that down. Somebody might see it. I'm by myself. It's okay. You just can't risk being, there are come out that you are really embarrassed about or that really make you uncomfortable. And you're going to be even hesitant to even write them down. That's okay. Make a code. I know what this means. I'm not going to tell you. But 1, 2, 3 means something to me. I know the date. I know the experience. I know the people. But I had to write that down. Okay. And as you're dumping these things on the left side and the right side, the things that part of your story, you're going to look, I got some stinking thinking over here. I got some real crap. Because from 50,000, 100,000, 2 miles, 6 miles up in the air, I'm looking at this going, that's something that I came to believe. And the question is it true? That person made me feel like crap, and I've always felt like that. But is that true? Or is it just a feeling? It's all a feeling. The big question is it one that serves me? Not if it's true or not. I mean, you can argue it's true or not. Then I'm arguing with your subconscious. I don't want to do that. You get conflict. But if you can say that's a feeling, and you say the question, does it serve me? My subconscious is going, no, it doesn't serve me. But your subconscious says yes. Okay, it thinks it's helping you. But now you're objective. You look at this, and I got two kids quarreling here. This guy's wrong. The guy on the left is wrong. That's not right. He thinks it's right, or she thinks it's right, but it's not. That needs to be reframed. We need to reframe that. Oops, what in the world did I do? Let's try going back. Oh my gosh. I just, guys, we're out of time. So we'll save this and we'll keep going. But the thought is simply this. Okay. The thought is simply this. It's not serving you. There we go. And if it's not serving you, it needs to be reframed, redefined, and moved over here in a way that does serve you. When you can see this objectively, you're going to be able to start down a journey, and there's a process that I will teach you to where if you do it, it may help you. Now, when they say you can't do it yourself, I still kind of believe that, because this is working in my life, to be able to be 6 miles up in the air, to put myself in that frame of mind and look at this and choose. Now I can consciously override my subconscious with emotion saying, yeah, I know, I understand. I understand where that feeling's coming from. It happened on this date. It came from there, but it's not serving me very well, or it's not true. What is true is I can, because, and here's your magic. I knew this was magic. When you can consciously and then subconsciously, only consciously, when you can you can believe that there is such a thing as neuroplasticity. If you can believe that, if you can recognize that the science has proved it's true, then why not use it? Why can't you take a negative and reframe it and force a new pathway by just doing a different behavior, getting some things in place to help you until you lay it down and it becomes a different definition, because it's a whole different set of firing of synapses on those neurons. And now it serves you. Now it's a positive. Can it be done? It can. But you've got to be able to see it. You've got to, and then you've got to be able to put yourself repeatedly in this position of 6 miles up, looking down on it, saying, yeah. And you can start to interrupt. This is what a third party does. When you start down a loop, the third party interrupts you. And if they interrupt that loop, it ruins the recipe. Everything goes, and your brain goes, whoa, what's going on? Because it's been interrupted. By yourself, you can't do that very well. But I'm telling you that this process can work. It's worked for me. I can't guarantee that it'll work for you, but I know it can work. But it's a process of looking at this objectively, recognizing this, and so that when the trigger happens and you start down the loop, you can start to choose differently. Now, here's the reality, and then I'm going to be done. Once you see this, you're going to feel really good. You can say, oh, this is great. I'm going to change right now. I'm going to make these changes. No, you're not. You're going to start. The first thing will happen is the buzz wears off, and you'll screw up and you'll run a negative loop. And you're going to be tempted to be really hard on yourself and, oh man, I failed again. If you can jump an airplane or the rocket and shoot up to 6 miles up and stop and look at it, you say, I didn't screw up. I just ran that loop again. That must be really hard. It is. That one's really ingrained. It is. I'm going to have to work on this. Yep. I messed up that time, but next time, and if next time you cut that loop off a little earlier, or you interrupt it a little earlier, you're making progress. And you cannot have a screw up define or reinforce this. I say cannot. Of course, you're going to try. The subconscious is going to try to defend itself. But if you can repeatedly say, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I know, I screwed up. Big deal. Next time I'm going to do a little better. And you gradually start changing that. I will teach you about the most powerful example I've ever heard on the subject. And it came several decades ago from Maxwell Maltz, who was the father of what the whole industry of human behavior science comes because of the observations that this man made. And we'll talk about that. But this process of being 6 miles up, looking at it, having empathy, feeling sorry for the experiences that put these stinking thinking loops in your head. You don't beat yourself up. You give yourself some empathy. And especially when you can recognize that kid that did that to me that day really set a loop. That was so emotional. And every time after that, something happened like that, it just came up and I just buried and I pounded that in until that was a loop. And I just cannot, right now, I can't seem to change that behavior. And if you trace it back to that kid, you can look at yourself and be empathetic and go, you know, that was tough. It wasn't true. I believed it. And so I've acted that way because I believed it, but I don't have to believe it. And you start rewiring and you move that over here with defined a little differently. And then with practice, you repeat it. And it basically just allows you to start gradually moving this over. Now, I said I was done. I got to finish this thought. I'm sorry. But I got to finish this thought. The military has figured out that you can do this. It's just brutal. And you can do it in a fairly short amount of time, just a matter of weeks. You can change behaviors, but it is brutal. Now, if that's the way you want to do it, there's places you can sign up and go and they will pound you into submission. But what is coming to the new thing is learning that there is a way to do it that's not so brutal. And it actually can work. And you can change and rewire these things with a little help, a little understanding, a little knowledge, and some practice, and then some empathy to yourself. You can move these over, reframe them, redefine them, and have more of these things in the story that make you happy, and fewer of these things over here that make you unhappy. You just redefine them and move them across. There you go. Probably sounds too simple, guys. It's real. I love teaching this. It's my passion. And does it relate to trading? It absolutely relates to trading, but it relates to everything. But guys, some of the things that you struggle with, good explanations, you don't need to be pounding yourself and say, gosh, I'm successful in this business. I'm successful in my marriage. Why can't I trade? Or the way I want? Why can't I trade the way I want? Well, okay, there's reasons for it. And when you do this exercise, you're liable to find out. Okay. All right. Amos, talk to me about that some other time. But this is, like I say, this has been a passion, something I've studied, but my son doing it now essentially professionally has really motivated me to because he's come to me and we've had a lot of great discussions. It's just brought it all up again. And I realized, I need to more consciously apply this. And so I've done it in the last month or two. I've gone through this exercise and it's been amazing to go through this exercise that I just showed you. And I'll give you a little more detail on it, but wow, it can change. You can change. All right, guys, God bless. Have yourself a wonderful day. Life is good. No matter what it feels like, sometimes life is good. And you change your story, you change your life. I truly believe the adage that we are completely responsible for the quality of our life. And it has to do with what we believe. Just that simple. It's, what do you believe? It's manifest in your life. At the core level, it manifests. It can't help not manifesting. These are memorized loops. They just happen. All right. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the good comments. I hope I didn't see any negatives. If there were, I must have skipped over them. But I'll look for them because they're helpful. If there's something I can do different or do better. But it seems like this wasn't a bad thing to do today. So I took a chance and I think it worked. Hope it did. See you again next time, guys. Bye-bye.